Brian Noble, your thoughts and feelings after a real titanic tussle with Doncaster this afternoon?
Yeah, I'm really proud of the players. They should be proud of themselves. They had to go through a lot of adversity, disruption. Didn't listen to some of the things we said that Doncaster would do, and they did them, and it made for a really tight tussle. An 80-minute affair. Full compliments to Doncaster. They made it difficult. But I'm thrilled with the win. Sometimes you got to win ugly. Sometimes you just got to get to the right end of the field and show your prowess. And I just thought we finished the game in the last 10 minutes a whole lot stronger than Doncaster did. But boy, if you're a neutral watching that, it's what an entertainment. But yeah, thrilled for the players. The amount of disruption we've had, and pre-game as well. I just show it's a reflection of how tight the group is.
You've mentioned disruption. During that game, Brian, you've lost James Donaldson inside a minute. You've then lost Kieran Gill, and then early in the second half you lose Jordan Lilly. Just how tough, mentally, physically, were you doing it out there at times in that second half?
Yeah, I think we managed that well. I think the disruption took away a little bit of our focus. I thought we started the game really well and looked strong, and then didn't quite kick the ball as well as we would like, and gave them some opportunity. The boy Gebby at the back is some player, isn't he? And he exposed us a couple of times, so we can learn from that. But I thought in the main we were stronger. I think we managed the troops really well, and came up with 2 points, which was an important 2 points for us. Sometimes, as I said at the start of this, you got to win ugly and roll your sleeves up and find a way to win rather than create opportunities and be nice and do the things. I just thought, the losing Hooley, the last training session, and Nathan Mason pulling out yesterday for personal reasons. So that was the early disruption. I thought the players were magnificent, and sometimes you get more from these kind of wins than you do from the ones that are really cute and clear cut and in the right parts of the field. We had to dig deep for sure.
Of the injuries, Brian, you've said personal to Nathan Mason. What's up with Luke Cooler?
Well, he's got a slight strain. He's completely expecting to be right for the next game.
And James Donaldson, Kieran Gill, Jordan Lilly?
Well, we don't know. Donald's got some kind of knee injury, we don't know what kind. Jordan Lilly took a bang, which I think everybody saw on the ribs. Kieran Gill, another muscle strain. So, we'll have a MASH unit tomorrow and find out what's up with them.
You've always emphasised, Brian, that effort is the first criteria for any of your teams. How pleased are you, that you've seen that defensive work rate from your players with all that adversity, disruption, and Doncaster looking for that elusive first win over Bradford in 52 years this afternoon?
I didn't realise that was a statistic. They're a good team, Doncaster, and you've got to be ready for what they throw at you. They've knocked off a couple of teams recently, so we knew it was going to be a vigorous game. I just thought our effort areas in the end was the difference between the teams. We got Eben down there, and Emmanuel came back on the field and looked dangerous, and Logan and Michael Lawrence was absolutely outstanding today to do 80 minutes, but it was important he was out there to keep the ship after all the disruption. We had Sam Alice in the halves at the end, and Zach Fulton in the left centre when he's normally playing right back row. So with the disruption that we've experienced today, I think it's we'll still have some pictures to show them where they could have been better. I thought we got a little bit rattled when all the disruptions happened, but we quickly got back into the game and we started pounding the floor, which was the way we were going to win today. I thought it was a really not thrilling win. I think that's the wrong expression, but a win that warms your heart because of the effort that they put in and the desire they showed to get to the other end and get the result.
With only those 14 fit players, Brian, how have you had to game manage that second half, obviously balancing that need for defensive solidity against the energy and the minutes that the players can put out there on the field?
Yeah, that's a chat. Green is good as well. We discuss it, and we'd use four with the injuries in the first half, we'd use 4, which we planned to use on other people. So then we did have to manage it a little bit. But I think all the players responded and played their part in getting over the line in the end.
We've mentioned previously about errors and issues of self-harm. Does that kind of go out of the window in a game like this when you're literally backs up against the wall?
No, I think we're going to have to be honest as a group again and understand how we enabled Doncaster to get, 22 points? Yeah, so there's lots of excuses and lots of reasons we could use, but there's lots of things we could have done ourselves to make that game a whole lot easier than it ended up being.
When you look at the game, Brian, Logan Moy has scored just after the hour mark. Doncaster have got the lead. You're down to those 14 fit bodies, effectively only able to bring on Emmanuel Waney and Eben Sker off and vice versa. How pleased are you when you look at it that in that last 20 minutes, when everyone might have expected Doncaster to kick on, that it was Bradford who found that resolve?
I think that's a reflection, and you should ask lots of the players in your interviews that you do. We're a tight-knit group. I think they realised what we weren't doing ourselves, and then they found some reasons to get to that end of the field as it happened to be. And I think we just finished the game stronger. We recognised that they'd only 2 big blokes on their bench, and they run out of interchange towards the back end of the game, so they'd used a lot of energy trying to stay with us, and had stayed with us and troubled us. So yeah, it's a really, really good win.
You've mentioned the importance of not conceding points. In that second half, Bradford didn't concede any penalties whatsoever, Brian. That in itself must please you.
I think the whole game was low penalty. I think both sides didn't give many penalties away. I think we just edged it in the second half. We had to be disciplined because we were structurally damaged a little bit, if you like, if that's the right expression. But you have to stand up and you have to work with what you've got. And we did that, and I think we were justifiable winners in the end. I think so.
James Meadows, how late in the week, Brian, or how close to this game did he know that he was getting the nod to replace Luke Cooley? Because I think it's the first time he's played fullback since August 23.
Yeah, Friday. He knew Friday after the practice. But he was exemplary. His attitude's exemplary. He's jumped straight in there. He knew what he was doing. And I was up in the stand up there and I could hear what he was screaming right throughout the game. And in the main, he was saying the right things, Jimmy.
And on Joe Keys, his second game back, Brian, I thought very, very smart, intellectual, certainly with the kicking game. Certainly when you look for the Zach Fulton try in the second half, Luke Briscoe obviously winded by Fulton and G. Next set of 6, he puts the ball up, Briscoe comes up with the error and Fulton, scores a crucial try.
Yeah, rocks and diamonds, and he's honest as Joe. He came back in, and a couple of the kicks towards the back end when we were in the front were poor kicks. We give a 7 tackle kick, when it's tight and things like that, and they went the length. And so we can look at those kind of things, but I don't want to take any sheen away from anybody. They've rolled the sleeves up, they've gone into a ditch, they got out of the ditch and come up with the result. What
does that say about the team culture under you and Lee Greenwood, Brian?
Well, we think it's all right. They might say you differently, but I think we like each other's company, and these wins can only enhance that spirit they have for themselves.
And just at the end, when Eben Sker goes over with just seconds left, you could see what it meant to the 1,200 travelling fans. What were your emotions like, Brian?
Thank God for that. I didn't think anything else. I thought they were put to bed a difficult afternoon. One where a lot of problems have had to be, questions have been answered as to what we would do when we did it. And as for the fans, they've been brilliant all year. If anything, that was for them. They thoroughly deserved it. The enthusiasm they show for our team and the energy that they give us can make the difference. Did it make the difference today? Yeah, probably.
It's now 7 wins in a row in the Championship. Is this the most pleasing, Brian, of those 7 that you've had to have
for different reasons? Yeah, for different reasons. I think there's some frustrations with it as well. I think when we get to halfway stage, we can reboot the whole lot and look at where we're at and what we've done and what's been successful and what hasn't been successful, and then reinforce that there's still lots of improvement areas in our team. The players know that, we know that, so there's lots to work on.
And just finally, from me, Brian, I'm kind of guessing the Challenge Cup weekend comes at a good time for you now, with perhaps some question marks over a few players and knocks and niggles.
Yeah, well, certainly the mash unit will be in full flow tomorrow. You know, it's important that some look reasonably. Well, we don't know till tomorrow. That is the truth of that. But we picked 3 or 4, 5 other, knocks with the other things. But we've had that before. Hopefully, we'll try and get some players back as well.
7 wins on the bounce, Brian. Do you feel you're finally starting to create that winning mentality that you've talked about for a long time now?
7 games, you'd expect so, wouldn't you? It's not an expectancy, so it's not a given. They're a humble group, our group, they're nice people. I think there still has to be a reflection on our challenges every week. I said before, early in the year, sometimes this championship is a psychological challenge as much as a physical or a skill challenge. And as long as we're ready for most teams, and we were ready, we showed some good pictures for Doncaster this week because they've had some good wins. And we didn't handle some of the pitches. We didn't handle well, so it shows that we've got a group that want to learn and want to get better, and will need to be in the second half of the season.
And you've got a week off next week. Will it give you the chance to almost reflect on the campaign so far?
Oh, we continue to do that, me and Greeny. We speak a lot. I think what it does give us is the opportunity to bring them in and sit them down and say, well, let's do some of this and some of that, and have a look at where they're at physically, and just take stock, really, if that's the right expression. See what's on the shelves and what we've got and what we need going into the second half of the season. We've got a really important game coming up in a couple of weeks, I think, against a very, very good team, and I think the extra couple of sessions that we'll get for that, the temptation is to give players a week off or 10 days off and let them refresh. I get that. We'll certainly refresh them, but we want to be ready for our next challenge.